Hello everyone, myself Navya. I'm an assistant professor in the department of CSIT, MLR Institute of Technology. Welcome to the session Programming for Problem Solving. In this session, we are going to discuss what are the data types in C language. Here we will see what are the data types in C language. So there are C consists of rich type of data types in C. So here we will see first what is a data type and what are the types of data types that was inbuilt in C. Coming to the data types. So what is mean by data types? Every variable we have discussed, and what is identifier and what are the rules to create an identifier. Similarly, what type of data you are going to save in that particular identifier will be said by this particular data types. So variable in C has an associated data type. So it specifies what type of data of that variable can store. So does it stores a character value? Does it stores a floating point variable? Or does it starts an integer? So this is what we are going to see in this session. So what was the syntax in order to create an identifier is data type as well as identifier. Data type says you that what type of data you are going to store in that particular identifier. I already said what is an identifier. Identifier is a container which can hold some value, isn't it? So what type of value you are storing in that particular identifier is this, that would be said by data type. So in order to create a variable or an identifier, you have to specify the data type here. So this statement declares the variable with name, number that can store integer values. Okay, so C is statical type language where each variable's type must be specified at the declaration, and once specified it cannot be changed. If you are specifying that particular data type for that particular identifier, that could not be changed further. So there are rich, I already said you, C language is a rich built-in data types are there. So these are called as, there are types of data types are divided into three. The first one is basic data types, or you can call it as primary data types. Okay, and the next data types are derived data types. When you are, the name itself, derived data types. So the data types derived from the basic data types. It is called as derived data types. User defined, the name itself user defined. If you are defining our own data types, the data types are said to be user defined data types. Here primary data types consist of integers, floats, double, char, boolean as well as void. So these are some of the data types. We will discuss it in detail. And coming to the derived data types, in derived data types you will have array, pointer, functions. We would discuss these data types further after you know the basic data types first. Then we will go for the simple C programming. We will use this one. Then we can go through this one. Okay, the user defined data types are union, structures, enumeration, type def. These all comes under union, user defined data types. Coming to the integer data types. Integer data types are nothing but it is used to store any numbers, which you can say natural numbers or whole numbers or positive, negative, without decimal part. So you can have 1, 2, 3 or 86 or 97. This all comes under integers. If you cannot use decimal points here. Okay, so the integer data type C is used to store integer numbers, any number including positive, negative and 0 without decimal point. You will not have decimal points in the integer data types. Octal values, hexadecimal values and decimal values can also be stored in integer data types in C. And coming to the range, it is this was the range of integer values, and it can store up to 4 bytes of memory if you are declaring a variable as integer data type like int a. A can hold 4 bytes of memory. A can hold 4 bytes of memory. And the format specifiers of integer is %d. So what is mean by format specifiers? Format specifiers are the symbols that are used for printing and scanning values of given data types. For each data type, you will have different format specifiers. So this was the symbols in order to use the value of that particular variable. We are going to use this %d as a format specifier. Coming to the integer data type only, we are having n number of divisions in the integer data types. So the variable of a given data type can only contain the values of the same data type. So variable can only store numbers, not text or anything else. We can store only numbers. And here the integer data type can also used as unsigned integer, which means it will start with 0 to values. Okay, it can't store. Unsigned int means you will have only positive values. Short int is, it is lesser in size, so it can hold only 2 bytes of memory. The range of short will be minus 32,768 to 32,767. Long int is a larger version of integer data type, so it can store values greater than int. Similarly, unsigned short int, which is similar to the relationship with short, it will store only positive values. So note the size of the integer data type is compiler dependent. As it was a compiler dependent, we can use size of operator. Size of is an operator in order to check the actual size of any data type. And here we are discussing the size according to the 64-bit compiler, as we are discussing this as 64. If you are having the 64-bit compilers, according to that, this was the range and the storage. Coming to the next data type, character data type. Character data types will store only a single character, which is nothing but whatever you are having in the keyboard. That one particular thing is called as character. Suppose A, $1, B. These all comes under characters. So, and the size of, if you are declaring, we have to use char is a keyword which is used to declare a character variable. We have to use the data type as char. Okay, char C. For example, C is a variable name. Or you can call it as identifier. C is an identifier. Whereas char is a data type. So what C can hold only characters. Okay, so C can hold characters such as A, $1, B, like that. And what was the size of this is 1 byte of memory. It can hold up to 1 byte of memory. So it is the most basic data type in C, as well as it stores only single characters and it requires only 1 byte of memory in almost all compilers. So what was the range here? You can have the range minus 128 to 127, or you can have the range of 0 to 255. And size is 1 byte. And what was the format specifier? %C here. Floating data type. We already seen integer data types will only store the integer values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. Positive, minus 1, minus 2. There is no decimal points here. But here float data type will store single precision floating point numbers like 5.3, 6.829, like this we have to show. In order to get these values to store, in a variable, you have to use the data type as float. So these values are decimal and exponential numbers. So float is a keyword which is used to declare a variable. Okay, in order to declare a variable as a floating data type, you have to use float keyword and variable name x. So x can store floating values, points values. We'll have the decimal points in this. So this is a variable name and float is a data type. And the range will be 1.2e minus 38 plus to 3.4e plus 38, and it can hold up to 4 bytes of memory. If I'm declaring float x is a keyword, x is a variable, or x is an identifier which can hold values of floating data type, float values, decimal points like 5.3, like the 5.8, 5.96, like this. So the size of this particular storage is for floating point is 4 bytes of memory, and the format specifier is percentile %f. Coming to the double data type, this was an extension version of floating data type. So here we will store decimal numbers same as float, but what was the difference? With double precision. There was a single precision, it was a double precision. When you use float, after a dot, it can hold 6 values. So after point, you will have 6 values like 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Only 6 values. When you use double, it is accommodate about to 16 to 17 decision after or before decimal point. Coming to the range of double data type is 1.7e minus 308 to 1.7e plus 308. And the keyword, in order to create a double variable, you have to use devo is a variable name, whereas double is data type. So it will create a memory like this, and it can hold up to 8 bytes of memory. And the format specifier for the double is percentile %lf. Coming to the next variable, void data type. Void data type is used in C to indicate absence of a value, which is nothing but no value will be stored here, and we will not use this particular void data type to create variables. We can't use void to create variables. So variables of void data types are not allowed. So where it is used? It is used in place of functions. So in order to return something, we will use void for functions. Okay. Next, size of data type in C. So we already said. So size of is an operator we will call, but we are showing in data types also. In order to have in order to know the size of any data type, you can use this operator, size of operator. So here are the complete overall list of this particular data type with range, size, and format specifiers. So short int 2 bytes, and this was the range, and percentile HD. And unsigned short int U 2 and 0 to 65,535, and percentile HU is the format specifier. And whereas unsigned integer 4 bytes of memory, and this was a range, and percentile U is a format specifier for the unsigned int. For the integer, percentile D is a format specifier. It can hold up to 4 bytes of memory, and this was the range. Long int, it was 8 bytes of memory, and this was 4 bytes of memory, and percentile LD is a format specifier. Unsigned long int also 4 bytes of memory, and this was a range, and percentile LU is the format specifier. Long int 8 bytes of memory, and this was a format specifier. Percentile LLD is a format specifier for the long int. And unsigned long int also 8 bytes of memory, and it refers in the range, as these will unsigned int will store the negative values as well as positive values, whereas unsigned int only stores the use it to store only positive values. So percentile LLU. And signed char 1 byte of memory and percentile C. And the range differs minus 128 to 127, whereas unsigned char 1 byte 0 to 255 percentile C. Float 4 bytes of memory 1.2 E minus 38 to 3.4 E plus 38, and percentile F is a format specifier. Double, it will store 8 bytes of memory. Long double, it will store 16 bytes of memory, and these are the ranges. And percentile LF is for double. For the long double, you have to use capital LF. So these are the different types of data types, which indicates, this table indicates the data types, their sizes, the range, as well as the format specifiers for each data type. So coming to this session, what we have learned in this session, what are different types of data types. What is a data type first? Data type refers to which type of data a variable can indicate. In order to declare a variable or identifier, you have to use data type for sure. So what was the syntax? Data type, variable name. Here data type indicates what type of data you are storing in this particular variable. Okay, so this is data type. And coming to types of data, how many types of data types are there? Data types are divided into 3. The first one is basic or primary data types. The next one is derived data types, as well as the last one is user defined data types. In this session, we have learned only the basic data types, basic or primary data types. And here, what is meant by derived data type? The data types derived from the basic data types. So the data types are named as derived data types. Coming to basic data types, what are you are having in the primary data types? Integer, short int, character, long int, double, float, void, etc. In the derived data type, what we have seen, arrays are one of the derived data type, functions are one of the derived data types, and pointers are another type of derived data types. Whereas user defined was divided into structures where the user will define their own data types. So the data types are named as user defined data types. Here in this user defined data types, we are having structures, unions, enumerations, as well as type def. These are the 4 data types that comes under user defined types, and these are the types of data types we have seen in this session. And we have seen what is a format specifier, and what are the ranges of each data type, and what is the size of data type. When you declare a variable like int a, isn't it? When you declare int a is a variable name which is identifier. I already said what is an identifier. Identifier is used to hold some value. So it is a container which is used to hold some value. So a will hold some value. What type of value it will be stored, which we have discussed in this session, which is the data type. So it will, what type of data it will be stored can be said by, what type of data can be stored in this particular A is said by this particular data type. So we are having n number of data types here. We have seen in this, and we have seen what are the format specifiers, ranges, size of this particular data type, and what the data type will, which type of values it will be stored, and what are the size. So for example, if you are having int a will hold the integer data types like 1, 2, 3, like this. And the size of this data type is, the size of A, how much memory it will be holded. It can store up to 4 bytes of memory. As well as what was the format specified in order to access this variable is in the value of this variable is percentile D for integers. So we have seen different data types, format specifiers also, ranges also, as well as sizes also. This is all about today's session. Thank you everyone.